In this video, you'll see 15 actors who ruined their careers in seconds. Blake Lively. Blake Lively is best known as the blonde bombshell who ruled the Upper East Side as Serena Vander Woodson in Gossip Girl. But her next big project, It Ends With Us, a film adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, was supposed to be her prestige pivot, a serious, emotional drama tackling domestic violence. Instead, it became a career-crushing catastrophe. Lively's downfall began with a series of tone-deaf promotional moves. While promoting It Ends With Us, a film centered on domestic abuse, she simultaneously pushed her alcohol brand and hair care line. Actions many deemed wildly inappropriate given the film's serious themes. Critics and fans alike slammed her for trivializing the movie's message, accusing her of exploiting the subject matter for personal gain. The situation escalated when Lively filed a sexual harassment complaint against her co-star and director, Justin Baldoni. However, it was revealed that prior to this, she had filed a covert lawsuit under a shell company, Van Zandt Incorporated, to subpoena Baldoni's former publicist and obtain private communications. Baldoni's legal team labeled this move as super shady and an abuse of process, arguing it was a strategic attempt to gather damaging information without proper legal procedures. Adding fuel to the fire, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, allegedly wrote a significant portion of a scene in the film without Baldoni's knowledge, further straining the professional relationship. As a result, Baldoni filed a $400 million defamation lawsuit against Lively and Reynolds, accusing them of orchestrating a smear campaign to damage his reputation and wrest creative control of the film. He also filed a separate $250 million libel suit against the New York Times for publishing an article that portrayed him negatively, claiming it relied on Lively's self-serving narrative. The industry took notice. An insider revealed that no one wants to work with Blake due to the controversy, stating she cost Wayfarer and Sony millions and blew past budgets. Public opinion turned sharply against her, with commentators like Megyn Kelly branding her a serial fraudster. Megan Fox. Megan Fox exploded into the pop culture stratosphere as Michaela Baines in Michael Bay's 2007 blockbuster Transformers. In 2009, Fox gave an interview to Wonderland magazine where she compared director Michael Bay to Adolf Hitler, describing him as a tyrant on set. The fallout was swift. Executive producer Steven Spielberg reportedly ordered her firing from Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Bay later confirmed that Spielberg's reaction played a role in her dismissal. Fox's comments, though perhaps hyperbolic, highlighted the toxic environment she experienced, a reality that Hollywood wasn't ready to confront. Fox's career took a nosedive. She was replaced in the Transformers franchise by model Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. Subsequent roles in films like Jonah Hex and Passion Play flopped both critically and commercially. The media painted her as difficult, and Hollywood distanced itself. A particularly scathing open letter from anonymous Transformers crew members labeled her dumb as a rock and unfriendly, further tarnishing her reputation. She has been in an on-and-off relationship with musician Machine Gun Kelly, with whom she welcomed a child in March 2025. Will Smith. The moment Will Smith open-hand slapped comedian Chris Rock on live television during the 94th Academy Awards in 2022 will live in infamy. Rock had made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, and seconds later, Smith stormed the stage and hit him, then returned to his seat. The world froze. The Oscars broadcast cut the feed in multiple countries. Stunned celebrities gasped audibly, and Twitter exploded like someone had launched a nuke at Hollywood's sense of decorum. The slap wasn't just shocking. It was wildly out of character for Smith, who had spent decades building a reputation as the nicest man in Hollywood. It was violence during the biggest night in entertainment, and it didn't just upstage his eventual Oscar win that night for King Richard. It obliterated it. The Academy banned Will Smith from attending the Oscars and all Academy events for 10 years. Projects were suddenly shelved. Fast and Loose, a Netflix film he was set to star in, was paused. Bad Boys 4 was put on ice. Emancipation, a passion project about slavery, was released quietly on Apple TV Plus with barely a whisper of promotion. And Smith's once squeaky clean brand? It became radioactive. Critics accused Smith of emotional immaturity, toxic masculinity, and ego gone unchecked. Memes flew. think pieces dropped by the hour. YouTubers turned it into a cottage industry. Even South Park dragged the slap. The man once beloved by millions became a walking cringe compilation. While his career wasn't completely ruined, his reputation took a beating. He issued multiple apologies, including a tearful Instagram video months later that many felt came off as too rehearsed, and his Apple TV Plus film Emancipation barely made a dent in awards season. Charlie Sheen. In 2011, Sheen's career detonated in real time. After a series of rehab stints, domestic violence allegations, and a Christmas Day arrest in 2009, Sheen spiraled into a media meltdown. He publicly insulted Two and a Half Men creator Chuck Lorre, calling him a clown and a charlatan in interviews. He also claimed he had tiger blood and was winning, turning himself into a walking meme. CBS and Warner Brothers cited moral turpitude and fired him mid-season, halting production and costing the studio millions. Sheen then sued for $100 million and lost. His character was killed off, and Ashton Kutcher replaced him. Sheen's erratic behavior made him uninsurable and unemployable. In 2015, Sheen revealed he was HIV positive, admitting he had paid millions in hush money. His daughter, Sammy Sheen, also publicly stated that she cut off contact with him after a heated argument. Once worth over $100 million, Sheen faced financial difficulties, selling off assets and downsizing his lifestyle. As of 2025, Sheen is nearly 6 years sober and focusing on raising his twin sons, Max and Bob. Rachel Ziegler. Rachel Ziegler, the breakout star of Steven Spielberg's West Side Story and The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, was poised to ascend to Hollywood royalty. However, her casting as Snow White in Disney's 2025 live-action remake ignited a firestorm of controversy that dramatically altered her career trajectory. Ziegler's portrayal of Snow White came with negative criticism due to her candid remarks about the original 1937 film. In a 2022 interview, she described the classic as weird and extremely dated, particularly criticizing the prince character as a guy who literally stalks her. These comments were perceived by many as dismissive of a beloved classic, leading to widespread backlash. Compounding the controversy were Ziegler's political statements, supporting Palestine during the Israel-Gaza conflict and posting a profane message about 47th and his supporters. This appalled fans, and the fallout was swift and severe. Disney reportedly scaled back promotional efforts for Snow White, limiting press interactions and focusing on in-house media. The film underperformed at the box office, grossing only $200 million globally against a $410 million budget. Critics and audiences alike panned the film, with over 91% of IMDb reviews rating it 1 star. Internally, Disney executives were reportedly frustrated with Ziegler's off-script comments. Producer Mark Platt's son, Jonah, publicly blamed her for the film's poor performance, stating that her remarks clearly hurt the film. Ziegler later apologized for her political comments, but the damage to her public image had been done. Today, she's become one of the most ratioed, mocked, and canceled by fans actors of the past 5 years, and only time will tell if she will reclaim her place in Hollywood's spotlight or it is time up for her. Amanda Bynes. Bynes' downfall began with She's the Man, 2006, where playing a boy triggered severe body dysmorphia. She spiraled into depression and began abusing Adderall, believing it would help her stay thin. Her final film, Easy A, 2010, was the tipping point. She hated her appearance and performance so much that she quit acting entirely. What followed was a string of legal issues and erratic behavior, DUIs, a hit and run, and a notorious incident where she allegedly threw a bong out of a 36th floor window. In 2013, she was hospitalized after setting a small fire in a stranger's driveway, leading to a 9-year conservatorship under her parents. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder, Bynes spent years in and out of psychiatric care. Her conservatorship, which began in 2013, was finally terminated in 2022. But even after regaining control of her life, she faced setbacks. In 2023, she was placed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold after being found wandering naked in Los Angeles. Later that year, she called the police expressing thoughts of self-harm and was hospitalized again. In April 2025, she launched an OF account, not for explicit content, but to connect with fans through direct message. Shia LaBeouf. LaBeouf's downfall was a cocktail of personal demons and public controversies. In December 2020, ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing him of sexual battery, assault, and emotional distress, alleging he knowingly transmitted an STD and engaged in relentless abuse. LaBeouf admitted to being abusive and ashamed, but denied some allegations. His erratic behavior extended to professional settings. In 2020, director Olivia Wilde claimed she fired him from Don't Worry Darling due to his combative energy, though LaBeouf contended he quit over lack of rehearsal time, sharing texts and emails to support his narrative. Earlier, in 2013, LaBeouf faced plagiarism accusations for his short film HowardCantor.com, which bore striking similarities to a comic by Daniel Clowes. His subsequent apologies were themselves plagiarized, including one lifted from a Yahoo Answers post. Netflix removed him from its awards campaign for Pieces of a Woman. His agency, CAA, parted ways with him, and he entered inpatient treatment for issues including PTSD and alcoholism. Legal troubles mounted, with multiple arrests for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. In a 2022 interview on John Bernthal's Real Ones podcast, LaBeouf confessed that he hurt that woman, referring to FKA Twigs, and described himself as a pleasure-seeking, selfish, self-centered, dishonest, inconsiderate, fearful human being. Amber Heard. The turning point in Heard's career came with her tumultuous relationship and subsequent legal battles with ex-husband Johnny Depp. In 2018, Heard penned an op-ed in the Washington Post, positioning herself as a survivor of domestic abuse. Although she didn't name Depp, the implications were clear, leading him to file a defamation lawsuit against her in 2019. The 2022 trial was a media spectacle, with both parties presenting damning evidence. Heard's credibility suffered significantly, especially after audio recordings surfaced in which she admitted to physical altercations with Depp. The public's perception of her shifted dramatically, with many viewing her as the aggressor rather than the victim. The fallout from the trial was swift and severe. The jury awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. Her role in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was significantly reduced, with reports indicating she had less than 10 minutes of screen time. Social media campaigns, including petitions to remove her from major film projects, garnered millions of signatures. In the aftermath of the trial, Heard relocated to Madrid, Spain, seeking a fresh start away from the Hollywood spotlight, where she adopted the name Martha Jane Kennery, a nod to the American frontierswoman better known as Calamity Jane. Paula Deen. Paula Deen wasn't just cooking, she was printing money in gravy-covered stacks. However, in June 2013, everything imploded during a court deposition related to a racial and sexual harassment lawsuit filed by a former employee of her restaurant. Under oath, Deen admitted to using the N-word in the past. When asked if she had ever used the racial slur, she replied, "Yes, of course." She attempted to defend herself by saying it was years ago and in reference to a specific situation, a gun being pointed at her head during a robbery. But it was too late. The internet does not forgive, and corporations, they don't wait to see the sequel. It got worse. Deen also admitted that she had once talked about planning a Southern plantation-style wedding. Yes, with all black waitstaff dressed like slaves. She denied actually going through with it, but the damage was done. Even worse, her deposition sounded like it was delivered with the cluelessness of a woman who didn't quite grasp how offensive her words were. It was the tone deafness, the "what's the big deal" attitude, and the failure to take immediate and authentic accountability that truly tanked her reputation. The blowback was brutal and swift. Within 48 hours, the Food Network announced they would not renew her contract. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Sears, JCPenney, and Kmart all severed ties. Smithfield Foods, gone. QVC, bye. Ballantine Books canceled her 5-book deal, even though her cookbook Paula Deen's New Testament shot to #1 on Amazon, before being yanked from the shelves. Even Caesars Entertainment closed her 4 buffets inside their casinos. Anthony Bourdain, never one to mince words, had called her the worst, most dangerous person in America, even before the scandal, citing her high-fat, high-sugar recipes and her delayed diabetes announcement. Paula tried to apologize multiple times, releasing awkward, stammering videos that only made things worse. One was so bad, she took it down hours after posting it. She eventually went on the Today Show to speak with fellow disgraced Matt Lauer, where she tearfully said, "I is what I is, and I'm not changing," which, did not help. After a long period in exile, Paula attempted a comeback. She launched her own digital network, Paula Deen Network, in 2014, a subscription-based cooking platform, but without major backing, it flopped. She now runs Paula Deen's family kitchen restaurants in select touristy spots, a shadow of her former empire. Kevin Spacy. In October 2017, actor Anthony Rapp accused Spacy of making a sexual advance toward him in 1986 when Rapp was 14 years old. Spacy responded by stating he did not remember the incident but apologized for any inappropriate behavior. In the same statement, he publicly came out as gay, a move that was widely criticized. Following Rapp's allegation, multiple individuals came forward with similar accusations against Spacy, including claims from former House of Cards crew members and actors associated with the Old Vic Theater, where he served as the artistic director from 2003 to 2015. Consequently, Netflix severed ties with Spacy, halting production on House of Cards and removing him from the final season. He was also replaced by Christopher Plummer in Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World after the film had already been completed. In 2022, a New York jury found Spacy not liable in Rapp's civil lawsuit. In 2023, he was acquitted of all charges in a UK trial concerning alleged incidents between 2001 and 2013 during his tenure at the Old Vic. Despite these legal victories, the damage to his reputation remained significant. In a 2024 interview with Piers Morgan, Spacy admitted that he was broke due to legal fees and broke down in tears as he revealed his home was being foreclosed on as he faced many millions in legal bills. James Franco. In 2018, Franco's image took a brutal hit when multiple women accused him of sexually exploitative behavior. Shortly after he proudly wore a Time's Up pin at the Golden Globes, an ironic decision in hindsight, actresses Sarah Tither Kaplan and Violet Paley publicly accused Franco of inappropriate sexual misconduct, alleging that Franco had coerced them into uncomfortable scenarios under the guise of acting opportunities at his Studio 4 acting school. The stories were chillingly similar. Franco allegedly pushed aspiring actresses into sexually explicit scenes and situations that went far beyond acceptable professional boundaries. Adding fuel to the fire was the revelation that Franco had previously faced criticism in 2014 for messaging a 17-year-old girl on Instagram seeking a hotel meetup. The backlash was swift and severe. Studio 4, Franco's acting school, permanently shut down, and the actor settled a class action lawsuit filed by former students for $2.2 million. Hollywood largely ostracized him, shelving his future projects indefinitely. Even his closest collaborators distanced themselves. Seth Rogen, Franco's longtime friend and frequent co-star, publicly stated he would no longer work with Franco following the allegations. He was further snubbed at the 2018 Oscars despite critical acclaim for The Disaster Artist. Today, Franco maintains a relatively low profile. He occasionally pops up in smaller indie projects or European films, far removed from the A-list limelight he once basked in. Brandy. On December 30, 2006, Brandy was involved in a tragic four-car accident on LA's 405 freeway. Driving her Range Rover, she rear-ended a Toyota driven by Awatef Abudihaj, 38, causing a chain reaction that led to Abudihaj's demise the following day. Brandy was neither arrested nor charged, but police recommended a misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter charge. Ultimately, prosecutors declined to file charges due to insufficient evidence. However, the legal and public fallout was immense. Brandy faced multiple civil lawsuits, including a $50 million wrongful death suit from Abudihaj's family. She settled with the family family and other involved parties out of court. The crash derailed Brandy's career. She stepped down from her role as a judge on America's Got Talent and entered a period of professional hiatus. The emotional toll was heavy. Brandy later revealed she suffered from depression and PTSD, seeking therapy and spiritual healing. She described the experience as life-altering, stating, "I believe I'm a better person because of it." Today, she's trying to make a comeback, reprising her iconic role as Cinderella in Disney Plus's Descendants, The Rise of Red in 2024, continuing the legacy she began in 1997. Armie Hammer. Hammer's career took a nosedive faster than you can say cannibalism. In January 2021, scandalous messages surfaced online, purportedly sent by Hammer himself, detailing violent fantasies and explicit references to cannibalism. At first, many dismissed these bizarre claims as outlandish rumors, because let's face it, who expects an A-list celebrity to text like Hannibal Lecter? But the controversy quickly spiraled into something too big and too weird to brush off. Numerous women stepped forward, alleging disturbing sexual misconduct and emotional abuse. Model Paige Lorenz and several others publicly accused Hammer of abusive behavior, adding credibility and gravity to the initial shocking revelations. Timothée Chalamet, Hammer's co-star, subtly distanced himself by avoiding direct commentary, but notably declined to defend him publicly. The fallout was swift and severe. Hammer was promptly dropped by his talent agency, WME, and his publicist bolted faster than someone being invited over for dinner by Armie himself. He was forced out of high-profile projects, including Paramount's series The Offer about the making of The Godfather, romantic comedy Shotgun Wedding starring Jennifer Lopez, and the thriller $1 Billion Spy. Even his completed projects like Death on the Nile suffered, delaying its release and attempting to downplay his role in promotional materials. Financially and professionally isolated, Hammer found himself persona non grata almost overnight, his reputation shattered like glass. Today, Hammer has practically vanished from Hollywood's radar. He resurfaced briefly in 2022, reportedly selling timeshares at a resort in the Cayman Islands.
Wait, what?
Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. once stood atop Hollywood's A-list, but behind the scenes, his personal life was unraveling. In 2019, Gooding Jr. faced his first public legal challenge when he was arrested for allegedly groping a woman at a New York City bar. This incident was just the beginning. Over 30 women eventually accused him of unwanted sexual touching over a span of 2 decades. In 2022, he pleaded guilty to forcibly touching a woman at a nightclub in 2018, admitting he kissed the waitress on her lips without consent. As part of a plea deal, he avoided jail time by completing 6 months of counseling. In 2023, just as a civil trial was set to begin, Gooding Jr. settled a lawsuit with a woman who accused him of forcing himself onto her in a New York City hotel room in 2013. The terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Gooding Jr. has maintained his innocence in many of these cases. In a 2022 interview, he addressed the allegations, stating, "It's not my truth." Once a sought-after actor, he has seen a significant decline in major film roles. Roseanne Bar. Roseanne Bar torched her legacy with just 11 words. On May 29, 2018, Roseanne Bar, then riding high on the successful reboot of her namesake sitcom, fired off a tweet that would implode her career. In response to a conspiracy thread, she wrote a racist tweet directed at Valerie Jarrett, a former senior advisor to President Obama, who is black and who was born in Iran. The consequences were immediate and fierce, with many condemning the tweet as racist and offensive. Within hours, ABC canceled Roseanne, despite its massive ratings. Network president Channing Dungey called the tweet abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values. Barr's talent agency, ICM Partners, also dropped her as a client. Barr apologized, claiming the tweet was a bad joke and stating, "I apologize to Valerie Jarrett and to all Americans. I am truly sorry for making a bad joke about her politics and her looks. I should have known better." She also blamed the sleep aid Ambien for her actions, tweeting, "It was 2 in the morning and I was Ambien tweeting." Sanofi, the maker of Ambien, responded, "While all pharmaceutical treatments have side effects, racism is not a known side effect of any Sanofi medication." The cancellation of Roseanne led to the creation of a spin-off, The Connors, which continued without Bar. In her first interview since the incident, Bar tearfully apologized, saying, "I've made myself a hate magnet." Click here to see the actors currently rotting in jail and the reasons why. See you there.